amiibo!
In 2014, Toys for Bob and its parent company Activision offered Nintendo an opportunity to partner together in a new franchise called Skylanders. The main pull would be using character figurines equipped with a special reader that would interact and store data with the game itself. Nintendo passed on the deal, but this spin-off, The Spiral the Dragon, quickly became one of Activision's most successful franchises. This resulted in competition from Disney Interactive Studios. They released a game with a similar concept in 2013 called Disney Infinity, and the Toys to Life wars began. You can imagine Nintendo at least feeling a little regret at the initial missed opportunity, seeing how successful the concept had become. In March 2013, Nintendo revealed Pokémon Rumble U, which is the first game that used the Wii U's near-field communications feature on the gamepad to utilize for its own interactive figurines. 1 year later in May, Nintendo then presented a more comprehensive prototype of this concept during an investors meeting. This would feature figurines that you can use across multiple games on the Wii U and 3DS. These would not be tied to a single title. 1 month later in June, Nintendo would reveal the amiibo platform during E3 2014, with Super Smash Bros. Being the game to feature alongside it. Nearly 12 years later, amiibo are still actively in production and being released with some of Nintendo's biggest titles. Hello everyone, it is so good to see you. Now, before we go any further, we need to make a very important clarification. One amiibo, two amiibo, several amiibo. There is no such word as amiibos. Are we clear now? Good. Amiibo have come a very long way. From the simplicity of the Smash Bros. Line to elaborate, detailed, and sometimes multi-part figurines, the functionality, price range, and quality of the figure themselves have changed so much. I'm a big amiibo fan. I have been collecting them since I've lined up for Wave 1 of Smash Bros. But the more recent changes have gotten me a little more hesitant to just blindly pick each one up. I have to be a little more selective these days for various reasons. I only have so much shelf space. But I am more interested in talking about how amiibo were used and what they did in games throughout the years. I want to highlight some of the more interesting uses these little toys have seen. Some you might be very familiar with, some you perhaps have never seen before, and just some weird decisions that were made. I feel amiibo made a lot of sense for Nintendo. They do partially identify as a toy company after all. There have been consistent releases in series lines like Super Mario and Zelda, one-offs and third-party releases. There's far too many to list, we'd be here for ages, so I'll just bring up some of the more relevant ones. Super Smash Bros. Feels like the most natural starting point. Scanning an amiibo in was very deliberately chosen to be displayed as a toy that is being given movements. The series has been using trophies as a visual representation of the characters coming to life ever since Melee, so longtime fans were already very easily able to understand the angle that they were going for. The concept blended seamlessly with the context of the game itself, and it was just so cool to think that we could finally have our own little Smash Bros. Trophies. But what functionality would we get from this? Smash Bros. Allows you to form a companion based on the character that you bring to life. They start at level 1, but over time you can fight them and watch them go from pushovers to some of the most dangerous AI opponents you've ever seen in Smash Bros. They're kinda overlooked now, but they were a fascinating concept. The figure player would learn from your own attack patterns and begin to mimic it. If you focus a lot on fighting with specials, they will start to apply those more too. Players who keep their distance would find the amiibo learning to zone more as well. If you taunted a lot after a KO, they would start to taunt more frequently too. You can augment their stats and have more attack, defense, or speed, and even change up their special moves. Remember when Smash on Wii U and 3DS had custom special moves? Oh, those were fun. After saving the data to the amiibo, you could take that character to a friend and have them fight your monstrosity. It was very novel. Even long after the game had stopped releasing updates and DLC, you could still apply characters all the way up to Corrin and Bayonetta in Smash 4. The functionality is pretty much the same across Smash on 3DS, Wii U, and Smash Ultimate, so I won't repeat myself for the others. It is notable that while the new Nintendo 3DS has an NFC reader built into its system, you could still use amiibo with older models with the use of this NFC reader. You just needed to hold it close to the back of your 3DS and you can use amiibo like normal. The 3DS was just as important for Nintendo to support with amiibo functionality as the Wii U. Intelligent Systems got on the ball pretty quickly. Fire Emblem Fates was the first title in the mainline series to feature amiibo functionality. With it, you can invite characters from other worlds into My Castle. At release, only Marth and Ike were available, but Lucina and Robin would eventually get the same treatment. When you talk to them, they humorously reference fighting all kinds of characters, a little nod to Smash Bros. Itself. They'll give you accessories for your units to wear, like Lucina's butterfly mask or Ike's pauldron. After a few visits, they'll challenge you to a fight, where if you win, they'll join your army. If you bring the right characters to fight them, they'll also have bonus dialogue. The conversations between Odin, Selena, Laszlo, and Lucina actually help to flesh out their backstories, seeing as all these characters originally came from Awakening and already know each other. For me, it was seeing Ike in an entirely different game that was so special to me. Coming from my favorite entries in Fire Emblem, it was surreal to see him back in another mainline title like this. This is what helped me to understand what amiibo were, adding little bonuses to my games, but nothing essential that I needed to have included. At the time, justifying buying amiibo beyond just having them as figures to display was a very tricky concept to balance. They are, in essence, physical DLC attached to a figurine, and that didn't sit well with some people. One of the ways Nintendo wanted to circumvent this was designing amiibo to have usage in multiple games. Fire Emblem amiibo actually had another game they could make use of before Fates, just a few months prior. Codename Steam also lets you scan these characters in, and they have a unique mechanic where if they fall in battle, they'll just be gone for the rest of the map. Fun to note that this is the first time Yuri Lowenthal provided the English voice for Marth, and he's been killing it in the role ever since. His first roles were tied to a little plastic figure, and now he's the people's Marth. I think that's just kind of funny. I don't know what alternate dimension we entered that formed a game where Marth and Ike fight alongside President Abe Lincoln. This was just some of the weird things we could expect from amiibo. These four got the most limelight though. Sadly, Roy came in too late to be included in Codename Steam or Fates, which is really a shame for that character in particular. Roy could just not get himself into a mainline Fire Emblem game in English for a while. And weirdly enough, Corrin also can't be used within their own game. Development wrapped up before its release, so there wasn't time for them to add something to have the Corrin amiibo do. So they got shafted in their own game. We do get some justice with Fire Emblem Echoes, however. In this game, you can use Corrin and Roy. Alm and Celica both have the ability to use the amiibo arts, and using this with any amiibo summons a generic unit to fight for you for a turn at the cost of 10 HP. But if you use a Fire Emblem character from the Smash line, you'll summon an illusory Echo for a turn. They come in and they just kind of zoom out of battle when they take somebody down. They're weird little ghosties. None of them talk and they can't be traditionally recruited, but hey, at least they finally gave Roy a model in these games. The amiibo for Alm and Celica themselves each unlock a special explorable dungeon, Duma's Ordeals and Milla's Ordeals. Each dungeon pits you against 5 increasingly powerful enemy groups, and you can unlock rare items upon completion. The stone tablets also give you some interesting little bits of lore surrounding the two gods. You do have to be high enough level to clear these. This is not a case of an amiibo giving you items for free. There was this sweet spot of time where some games made use of so many amiibo, even third-party characters in first-party Nintendo titles. Yoshi's Woolly World is another example, albeit a lot simpler this time. A large majority of the Smash Bros. Line was compatible, and it allowed Yoshi to have a custom skin modeled after them. Even characters like Sonic or Pac-Man had a skin, and it was just really bizarre to see at the time. I sadly no longer have my Yarn Yoshi amiibo anymore. You could tell there was a big push for them. They were like front and center at the loading screen. Luckily for me, the Smash Bros. Yoshi offered the same functionality as the Yarn versions. If you scanned him in during a stage, you could get this weird double Yoshi mode where you can control 2 Yoshi at the same time. That's pretty cool in concept, but because they did the exact same action at the same time, they would often get in the way of each other and made some of the game a little harder because of it. Also, this Yoshi looks really weird. Like I know he's supposed to be basically plastic in a world of wool, but he just looks like a big gummy candy. I want to eat him. The amiibo support continued in Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World for the 3DS. A new soft Poochie amiibo release, and you could summon him to be a companion to fight enemies or sniff out secrets. This also updated other features like allowing for more costumes from recently released amiibo, and it also desynced the double Yoshi mode, making it a little more usable. You might have caught that for a moment there, you could also make Yoshi wear a Tom Nook outfit. Animal Crossing has its own chronicles of amiibo in Nintendo's history. From its own physical line of figure releases to a whole damn card series featuring nearly every single villager in the series' history, this had a lot. The Animal Crossing amiibo card line released Series 1 with Happy Home Designer on the 3DS in September of 2015. And then they released some more. And then they released some more. Yes. Series 1 featured 100 cards, with 3 more series coming down the line which also had 100 each. An extra series brought back returning villagers, there's Sanrio cards that we'll get to later, Series 5 for New Horizons, it just didn't stop. There was a huge update for Animal Crossing New Leaf, years after the game was released, which introduced functionality with Welcome Amiibo. You can invite villagers to a campsite and purchase exclusive items. But the real deal maker here for some people was the introduction to this curious little lamp. You could call a wisp, and by scanning an Amiibo card, you could summon any villager you wanted for multiple things. One of those being calling them to live in your town. Jeremiah here has been part of my towns ever since Wild World, so this was pretty cool. This functionality also carries over to New Horizons. I know that for some, this takes away the magic of finding your favorite villagers organically, but that's why it's optional and not a built-in feature, yeah? Like with time traveling, those who wanted to mess with their experience could do so if they wanted. I remember trading cards with some friends and getting some of my favorite villagers from this. I miss those times. This was another way that Nintendo would promote social interactions with others. Just like when playing Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. Do I need to talk about Amiibo Festival? Fine. For those who may have stayed away from it, this is a board game that is played solely with figures. You tap the amiibo when it's your turn, and your turn happens. That's pretty much the game. Look, the Wii U had some dark times. Being an Animal Crossing fan was occasionally hazardous to our health, and Nintendo insisted that there was a game that fully utilized amiibo to help push the Animal Crossing line. It released with figures and promo cards. I almost couldn't start this game because I do not have any of the Animal Crossing figures anymore. Thank God I had Isabelle from the Smash Bros. Line or I wouldn't be able to capture anything. You only need one amiibo figure. Everyone here can be a human villager and use cards to move. But only if that villager has moved onto the board, or else, nope, it won't let you roll. I forgot how tilted this game makes me. Not necessarily because it's just touch amiibo, go for turn, but because of just how inconvenient it is. You have to share the gamepad to advance text and whatnot. When you buy turnips on Sunday, you have to share the touchscreen with each other instead of just having your own controller. It's kinda sad because you do see the charm of the characters being utilized, but there's almost nothing of substance here. No real pressure or tension between the other players. You're just 4 people tapping amiibo, doing their own things separately, occasionally interacting with one another. The use of stocks, the stamp rally on the 4 corners, the way you can add landmarks and build villager houses before a game starts, there's like legit potential to make this work within the context of Fortune Street if they want to really go all in. But it is definitely nowhere near any of that. And Fortune Street is probably a little bit too scary for this audience. At least the side games let you use the cards, but even then, I have some problems. Forget the fact that I can't even play them all because I have to go through the main board game numerous times to unlock them. One of the ones that I did have unlocked, the quiz game, it's absurd. So, since you're all sharing the same gamepad, you have to hold up the character card to the thing when you know the answer, right? Nope. You can only answer when the spotlight is on your character. So if you hold the card up knowing the answer and it's not specifically saying that you can answer now, you get bopped on the head for it. In what world does this quiz show make sense? If multiple people know the answer, then it's up to chance who gets to actually answer it. Did they not want people to potentially bend and ruin their cards by all shoving it up at the same time? It's so dumb. Some games are better designed than others, like Desert Island Escape, but there are some that leave a weird and bad taste in my mouth. It's an example of the gamepad hindering the experience and usage of amiibo, not helping it. One of my personal highlight moments for amiibo on the Wii U was for Super Mario Maker. In this weird, wacky Mario level creator, we were given all kinds of tools to play with from Super Mario Bros. 1, 2, 3, and World. But something I didn't expect were the character costumes. In the Super Mario Bros. 1 theme, you can make it so that when he gets a mystery mushroom, it turns you into an entirely different character instead. There were so many costumes added over the course of this game, from video games to non-Nintendo properties to real-world people. And if you had an amiibo during the peak of this game's activity, you were very likely to get a mystery mushroom costume of them. Some sprites were reformatted to work in Mario Bros. Dimensions, while others were entirely new and unique. Many of them had their own sound effects too. And thankfully, you don't need to own the amiibo to get these. They're an instant unlock with them, but you can clear the 100 Mario challenge in-game to earn others one by one. Clearing the mode was a pain back then. People made some mean courses. This game released with 2 big voxel Mario amiibo. Let's not ask why I have both. And with them, you can make Mario huge with a CRT filter over the screen. All the enemies have mustaches, so some of them turn into Luigi. The game was weird. Now, this Big Mushroom is amiibo exclusive. You have to scan it in every time you want to use Big Mario. But the utility is so different from traditional Mario, since you're breaking everything in sight, that it's kind of its own category. It's not needed, it's just dumb fun, like all these costumes. Though I am upset that these were never utilized on the 3DS version or in Super Mario Maker 2. I think we lost a lot of charm by removing these entirely. Kirby is an example of being very consistent with their amiibo usage. He has one of his own lines, but it was pretty short-lived. All I have are the Smash Bros. Editions. They do essentially the same thing. In something like Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, you can give yourself a power-up, but only once per day. DDD will give Kirby more health, and Meta Knight will make your dash faster and more potent. Kirby's extra epic yarn on the 3DS pretty much applies the same concept, giving him a little hat and ability. You can throw bombs, or with Meta Knight, just let Kirby go full crazy and start cutting up everything in sight. He looks so unhinged, he has had enough. In a game like Planet Robobot, scanning an amiibo will give you a copy ability, but it's a little more intricate than you think. Certain amiibo will give you abilities closely tied to them. Dr. Mario, for example, will give you the Doctor ability. Donkey Kong, Little Mac, and Lucario will give you Fighter. Lucas, Mewtwo, and Ness will give you the PSI ability. Makes sense since it's based off his hat after all. Meta Knight from the Kirby series amiibo gives you the sword with his mask, but the Smash Bros. Meta Knight gives you the sword and green Kirby. I don't really know why. Most of the Smash Bros. Line gives you a closely related ability, and that's very thoughtful and cool to see. Also, the very rare actual use of Pokemon amiibo. And scanning Kirby specifically will give you the Smash Bros. Ability, which first appeared in Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. You can get this ability in-game, but it's hard to acquire. This very accurately replicates his moveset from Super Smash Bros. By hitting the correct directional inputs. You can do flurry punches, swing your hammer, use the final cutter, and even grab your opponent and dive off stage. I don't recommend this in a Kirby game. Kirby's amiibo usage slowed down more in the Switch era. In Star Allies, Return to Dreamland Deluxe, and in the Forgotten Land, you could use them to get extra items, currency, health, that sort of thing. Little extra bonuses that you can pick up in the stages themselves. It's not substantial enough for a larger section. Unlike Kirby, Pikmin has only used amiibo a grand total of one single time. Do you remember which game that is? That's right! It's the critically acclaimed Hey Pikmin. Just so you know, I'm not throwing shade or anything. I actually do think this is one of my favorite amiibo, genuinely. It is fantastic quality for the time, it is colorful, and amusingly, pretty close to the size of actual Pikmin. The application itself is just funny. When you scan it, you can call in emergency Pikmin, which will increase in number as the amiibo levels up. You can also scan a huge variety of other amiibo to unlock secret areas and collect the statues, as they call it. From Animal Crossing to Splatoon amiibo, you can find a wide range of familiar faces with this. Even better, you can scan the Pikmin amiibo to unlock a random one, allowing you to eventually gather them all. But it's so odd that the release of Pikmin 3 and 4 on Switch didn't introduce amiibo functionality in some way. I am shocked that there wasn't an Ochi amiibo. That would have flown off the shelves. I guess Poochie and Duck Hunt Dog were the only good enough boys to get one. Did you know that WarioWare Gold has amiibo functionality? Yeah, me neither. Can you picture what scanning an amiibo in this game does? I guarantee you, whatever you're imagining, the actual use is dumber. So, once you beat the game, you can go into Wario's sketch. You can scan an amiibo and he'll get a spark of inspiration. Behold! You get a picture that apparently vaguely resembles the character, I think? And then you sell it for currency. Yup, that's my favorite squid idol, Callie. As beautiful as the day I met her. I do appreciate that instead of just giving you currency and that's it, they went out of their way to make you laugh with a dumb sketch for many, many characters. GB Robo Ziplash has its own amiibo too. You can use it to get collectible figurines and also power up to Super Chibi Robo up to 3 times per day. This golden form gives you a longer whip, faster running speed, and double your battery energy for a limited time. It didn't help to alleviate any of the criticism with that game, but the amiibo itself is cute. Again, one that is nearly actual size. He will never leave his box. Do you notice he's just there now? He knows what he did. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition did not use amiibo, but the one for 3DS did. It's just to unlock tokens for music and 3D animated model viewers. They didn't care to do much with it. We'll get back to Xenoblade later. But Metroid amiibo. For some reason, Nintendo really cares about several Metroid releases getting amiibo functionality. Metroid Samus Returns was definitely the first, introducing a new Samus and the famous Metroid amiibo. You can also use the Smash Bros. Line of characters, which will unlock reserve tanks of energy and missiles. The new Samus will unlock reserve Aeon energy, but the Metroid amiibo, that was the real standout. When you scan it, it'll give you the location of the nearest Metroid to hunt down. But also, after completing the game, you can unlock a new mode entirely. You get hard mode automatically, but now you can unlock fusion mode with this amiibo. Unlike the Chibi Robo feature, this makes the game even harder and you'll receive about ×4 damage instead. Not only that, you'll be wearing the fusion suit during your run. Truly only for the more hardcore fans who went out of their way to get the amiibo in the first place. And you can't help but give the baby a squeeze. And yes, in case you forgot, and I wouldn't blame you, Federation Force got amiibo support too! It changes your skin to look like Samus, so you can be constantly reminded that it wasn't the Metroid game that we wanted at the time. I'm moving on! Metroid Dread, while it did get cool amiibo, didn't really do anything as substantial as Samus Returns. Scanning the Emmy gives you a permanent increase of 10 missiles, and scanning Samus gives you a permanent extra energy tank. Other Samus amiibo give you random health items once per day, and enemy amiibo, like Emmy, Dark Samus, the Metroid, or Ridley, give you random amounts of missiles per day. And I know, of course, there's amiibo use in Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, but I want to save amiibo on Switch 2 for later, so let's at least finish up talking about the 3DS and Wii U. Someone wants to play Star Fox Zero? At least I think so these days. So if you scan your Fox amiibo, your vehicle will turn into an SNES style. It'll have the same sound effects from the original game, and it'll even change the walker to look like how it did in Star Fox 2. It's just a very fun little cosmetic addition. It doesn't alter your gameplay at all, unlike the other amiibo to use. If you scan in Falco or Wolf, this will change the color of your R-Wing. Now, you'll deal twice as much damage, but also take twice as much damage. It's more so made for those daring challenges to keep you on the edge of your seat. These are little bonuses that, again, aren't something that everybody would want or seek out. They're just enjoyable little additions to make further use of the amiibo that you've already purchased. Or to look nice on your shelf that doesn't have any room for amiibo, but you decide to buy them anyway. I especially wanted to at least touch on some of the third-party support. Yacht Club Games with Shovel Knight was the first company outside of Nintendo, not tied to Smash Bros., that got their character turned into an amiibo. This was the first in a series along with Plague Knight, Spectre Knight, and King Knight. When scanned, you can play as the amiibo figure that earns experience and levels up, learning skills that you'd normally purchase or pick up around the world. You can also unlock cosmetics and trick out your knight in Shovel of Hope. Each of the amiibo in the series unlock challenge stages, costumes, and even a little fairy companion for you. Look, it's a little mini-me! He's adorable. Your fairy will animate and find little secrets for you, while also crying in fear if you die. It honestly doesn't do a whole lot, but come on, you get a funny little fairy companion to be a goober with. And this functionality works across all Nintendo versions, whether you play on 3DS, Wii U, or Switch. Finally, I think one of the funniest things about this amiibo is that you can use it to unlock a fight against Shovel Knight in Azure Striker Gunvolt 2. Man, amiibo usage during this time went from simple references to bonkers crossover territory like this. It was great. Jumping around a bit, but Skyrim used a feature pretty similarly to Breath of the Wild. By using the amiibo magic ability, you can scan any Zelda figure to have a chest pop in. Much like Link's own amiibo costumes, you'll have a chance of getting some exclusive gear. This includes the Hylian Shield, Master Sword, and Champion's Tunic. You can also find this equipment in-game, so it's not locked to having these figures. Dark Souls released the Solaire of Astora amiibo, where you can praise the sun with reckless abandon. I think that's literally all this does. It only unlocks this gesture, and that's just comedy. Hammer Slam Bowser and Turbocharged Donkey Kong and Skylanders Superchargers was like a small way that Nintendo backpedaled and said, you know what, let's try that partnership after all. They got cool vehicles and a lot of fun references in their movesets. You can adjust the base so that they can read for either Skylanders or as amiibo, which is a feature still unique to these figures. But let's take a quick amiibo fact break. Now, nearly all amiibo are created using the same type of material. It's a fairly typical kind of plastic. But for the two variants of Rob in particular, these are likely made with the same-ish plastics used in older consoles like the NES or the Famicom. And I learned this myself because my ROBs are starting to yellow in the same exact way that those consoles did all those years ago. They have that exact same burnt look caused by oxidation. This plastic has bromine inside, and over time, interacting with oxygen causes it to change color, even when it's just sitting idly in a box. Some might be devastated by this, but I find it kinda charming in a weird way. Splatoon 1, my beloved, another series that has a long ongoing amiibo line. It started off with the Inklings, a green squid, and the Squid Sisters. Love how they have a shiny sheen to them in their hair. It's a nice attention to detail when seen in the light. There's a place in the square where you can scan them in, cleverly designed as an amiibo package that they get brought to life in. Scanning in certain amiibo would give you missions, and clearing them would unlock unique gear. You got this crazy mech suit that clips everywhere and is too big for your model, and also a school uniform. I rocked this so much back in the day. If you scan in the idols, you can check out their concerts as if a Splatfest was happening anytime and anywhere that you wanted. There is something magical about the first era of Splatfest that I can't seem to feel again these days. Now, I personally feel that some of the best amiibo usage across multiple games has to be with a little something that came along with Twilight Princess HD for the Wii U. This has other generic uses, like Link replenishing arrows or Zelda healing your hearts, but there's two other ways to change your game up. More commonly seen in other games is the added difficulty. By scanning Ganondorf, your hearts will turn purple and you'll take double damage. Pair this with hero mode and you'll take ×4 damage and find it very difficult to heal back up because hearts don't appear on the field in this mode. It opens the way for one of the most difficult challenges in any Zelda game we've ever seen. Most importantly, this game brings us Wolf Link, a figure included with Twilight Princess HD. I'm sorry, when I mentioned Good Boys with Amiibo, I didn't mean to forget you, Wolf Link. By scanning this on the collection menu, this will enter you into an exclusive dungeon, the Cave of Shadows. It's a gauntlet filled with rooms of enemies, much like the Cave of Ordeals, except you're forced to fight only as a wolf. There are several enemies here that you probably never considered fighting as a wolf, so it really changes up your approach to these, given you're limited to like 3 attacks. I never voluntarily fought Redeads like this, and now I know why. You'll be relying very heavily on your charge attack that can take out many enemies at once with Midna's help. This gauntlet is mean and unforgiving. There are environmental hazards, large groups that can gang up on you, ice physics that can screw you over. It's very stressful. Fairies do not revive you, and you can't drink potions as a wolf because you don't have opposable thumbs to open the bottle with, you dumb dog. Each time that you enter, you can go a little bit further, and upon beating it for the 3rd time, you get your reward, your next biggest wallet, and a fun look at a statue modeled after the amiibo. But the real prize is recording your accomplishment to the amiibo itself. It'll save how many hearts you beat the dungeon with for a different use altogether. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a phenomenal title, you don't need anyone to tell you that. It's the amiibo functionality that helped to elevate this game a little further with just some extra, but not mandatory features. This game was originally built for the Wii U, so I still consider the creativity of the amiibo usage here to be a product of that time, not so much the Switch era where it simply carried it onward. And this was also when we were getting the Legend of Zelda line put out. At launch, we got the Breath of the Wild Link Archer and Rider, Zelda, a Bokoblin, and a Guardian where you can move and pose your legs around. And they kept piling on over the years. We got Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword Links, the 8-bit Link, Ocarina of Time Link, Toon Link, Toon Zelda, the 4 champions, another Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf, 4 more champions. We're still getting champions today. It keeps going, man. And all of them can be scanned into Breath of the Wild for unique equipment, potentially. From iconic weapons to putting Link back in the green hat and tunic, there were a lot of bonus features to find. You could even bring back Epona if you had the Smash Bros. Or Twilight Princess amiibo. Weirdly doesn't work when you scan the one where Link is actually on a horse, alright. But the coolest implementation here was taking that Wolf Link amiibo and finding out now you have a traveling companion. It's better to not question the implications of the timeline with 2 Links next to each other, especially when you can dress one as Twilight Princess Link. It gets messy really quick. By default, Wolf Link will have 3 hearts and travel around with you. He'll help you in battle and take a bite out of enemies. But if you complete the Cave of Shadows in Twilight Princess, the number of hearts you clear it with will determine the number of hearts your wolf has, which can greatly increase their use on the field. I am pretty proud that I have as many hearts as I did when I saved it to my amiibo, even if the dungeon smacked me around when I tried it again. It really does feel like the fighting spirit of that wolf you sent into the cave lives on in this form, ready to continue helping you. And the wolf design works very well in this art style. If he gets hurt, you can heal him by feeding him. He also really hates the Yiga clan and will chomp them down before I can even get close. What a good boy. Even to this day, the Wolf Link amiibo continues to be one of my favorite uses of the function. It's a fun extra use that isn't vital to the gameplay or some quality of life, but it's still practical to use at nearly any and all times, even if you're just exploring. There are sadly not very many instances beyond this point where I feel like amiibo were cleverly used, or at least applied in a way that we hadn't seen already. Zelda kept up the trend for as long as they could. Tears of the Kingdom basically reused the exact same uses you had in Breath of the Wild, but also added new items and sailcloth patterns to be earned by these various figures. A lot of these are direct references from the games that they're from, or some just have a pattern relating to the character that they're based off of. And when we scan in the Wolf Link amiibo, he... what are the implications of a wolf-sized amount of meat appearing where my wolf friend should be? I know there's a lot less people out there now who have Twilight Princess HD on Wii U that can actually make use of this functionality several years later, but why take it out at all? All Nintendo had to do was release Twilight Princess HD on the Switch and we could have kept Wolf Link alive. But no! They took my friend away and butchered him into a bunch of pieces of meat! We're moving on. The next game is Hyrule Warriors. Using amiibo is lame, all three of them, including the one on 3DS. Every single one, you get the option to scan 5 amiibo per day, and they get you some weapon or item for free. If it's specifically a Zelda amiibo, sometimes the reward is a little nicer, but it's nowhere near as fun as cosmetics or anything. Sorta just shoehorned in there just because. That's sadly all I can say about this trio of games. Link's Awakening on Switch has its own little dungeon maker with Dampé? I don't know how to say his name. When you show him certain amiibo, he'll give you a special room that you can use in your designs. Scanning Ganondorf, for example, will give you a Moblin room. Zelda, on the other hand, gives you the Great Fairy room. If you scan in the unique Link's Awakening amiibo, you get a room and the option to add a plus effect. In this case, you can add a Shadow Link that will hunt you down and never leave you alone for the rest of the dungeon. He is just obnoxious and rude. You can't pause for anything, even while fighting a boss. It adds a lot more tension to your user-created dungeons. Messing with this for just a bit made me wish that I really could just share these Zelda dungeons more efficiently. It's only possible to share by storing your dungeons within the amiibo themselves. I think a dungeon maker like this, but more fleshed out, could certainly have its own place in the future. Strangely enough, Echoes of Wisdom did not have an amiibo built for it at all. A Zelda variant would have looked so good next to the Link in the same art style, but that's just what they decided, I guess. This game allows you to eventually change Zelda's outfits, and from then, you can also wear costumes that are unique to some amiibo. Scanning any Zelda will give you blue clothing. It's like a mix of her classic outfits with the shades of blue that we're used to seeing here in more recent games like Breath of the Wild. Any Link amiibo will give you a red tunic. Despite the color, it doesn't add any heat resistance or defensive capabilities. These are all purely cosmetic. Finally, Ganondorf, a Bokoblin, Guardian, or any of the first champions will give you a black cat outfit complete with ears and whiskers. There's a brown cat suit obtainable during the game, but this is the only way to get the black variant. If you scan in any non-Zelda amiibo, or one that you already claimed the outfit for, you'll get ingredients for a smoothie. That's essentially all that there is to Echoes of Wisdom. So this leads us to Skyward Sword HD. Unlike other Zelda games, this allows the use of only one singular figure, this Zelda and Loftwing amiibo, which is one of my favorites. It's very well made. Unfortunately, this also carries one of the most notorious examples of exclusivity locked behind an amiibo figure. In the original game, when you're on the land below the clouds, you only can return to the sky by interacting with a statue. Mildly inconvenient at times, but it is what it is. Skyward Sword HD, along with other quality of life improvements, make it so that you can instantly go from anywhere on the map to the sky. when you use the amiibo. And only when you use the amiibo. When you use it in the sky, you can warp back to the spot where you first applied it on the land. This is not something that you have access to from the start or unlock mid-game. This is tied to the amiibo. For what reason? I couldn't tell you. It doesn't help that at the time, this figure was priced a little higher than others due to the increased quality and size. I think it was $25 in 2021. People were notably and understandably upset about this. It felt like Nintendo was really testing to see how far they could go with amiibo in popular lines like this, given the usage was starting to slow down. I didn't even pick up Skyward Sword HD. But I did get the amiibo, so maybe I'm just part of the problem. It felt like some developers didn't really know what else to do with amiibo in their games sometimes. Thankfully, locking quality of life this significant was rarely ever present, and we haven't really seen something like this since. For the most part, the Switch era saw a lot of them just doing what previous titles did, but again, or with more options. That wasn't always a bad thing. Mario Kart 8 and the Wii U introduced custom outfits for your Mii racers. Some of them are really genuinely creative and cool. By the time the game ceased updates, you could scan in 19 different amiibo costumes. You even got the third-party trio of Mega Man, Sonic, and Pac-Man. I'm particularly a fan of the Pac-Man helmet, even if it is really distracting sometimes. This carried on to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on Switch, where they added a grand total of 2 more costumes. With the addition of Inkling, you could also scan in the amiibo for a Splatoon outfit at launch. Later down the line, Daisy received hers as well, rounding the total out to 21. I have literally all of them, except Toad for some reason. Anybody got a Toad amiibo? It's just staring at me right in the middle. Animal Crossing New Horizons still utilize some of the same features as before. There's no longer a place to park an RV and buy items from villagers, but we are on an island after all. But you can invite anyone whose card you have to your island. You gotta scan them in, fulfill their requests, and keep talking to them a few times, but pretty much anyone is fair game here. A very interesting thing that happened was that Animal Crossing did a collaboration with Sanrio, adding 6 new cards with villagers themed to their various characters like Hello Kitty and Keroppi. After scanning, a set of furniture, clothing, and items become available, which make up a huge portion of the special catalog. Notable because I think this is the only time Amiibo have collaborated with a non-gaming company. You could also gift these items to friends. There was no need for others to buy the cards if they only wanted a few items from the available sets. And they fit seamlessly right into the world of Animal Crossing. While it's a crime that we never got to use the Pyra or Mythra amiibo with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, we did get to make special use of them in 3. Scan them in and you get a weapon skin based on their blades if you use the Sword Fighter class. You can also get the Monado by using Shulk's amiibo. This game did get its own amiibo later down the line, which lets you dress like consoles and also give your team more casual outfits. These can all also be earned without amiibo by fulfilling certain requirements and talking to Meebomi. That is the Xenoblade name of all time. The weapons might not be seen much since you'll be actively changing your character's class throughout the game, but it's cool to see them and be able to unlock them early this way. Let's jump back to Fire Emblem for just a bit. The Warriors games pretty much suffer the same fate as the other Nintendo Musou games. All Fire Emblem amiibo are usable, but they basically give you nicer generic weapons. Whereas if you scan any other amiibo, you instead get very generic weapons, or a little gold. In the first Warriors game, Chrom and Tiki do give you unique weapons that can help you when you're starting fresh, but they get outclassed very easily. If you're a Warriors freak like I am, any of the items that you get from the amiibo will just be another thing to sell in your convoy. It is essentially the same across 3DS and the Switch. Three Hopes does essentially the same thing too. Nothing that particularly stands out here. But doing this did remind me that Three Hopes is 60 FPS on Switch too. I gotta get back to this. Fire Emblem Three Houses isn't too different in that aspect, where scanning a figure will give you items and materials when you visit the Amiibo Gazebo, which is still really fun to say. But if you scan specific amiibo, you can unlock classic music to play during extra skirmishes. These range from Shadow Dragon and the Binding Blade, which play the Fire Emblem Heroes versions of their songs, to Radiant Dawn, Awakening, and more. Music from games before Awakening won't transition into their battle themes when entering a fight though, so that's a little sad. But it's something. I will say though, it is strange that we have this specific line for Fire Emblem amiibo, but we didn't at least get like the 3 house leaders. Those would have flown off the shelves at the time. And we also didn't get any Alear for Engage. Unlockables were handled a little differently with this title's amiibo. Going to the amiibo gazebo and scanning a Fire Emblem character will give you a fashion ticket and a music ticket. These allow you to purchase costumes based on the emblems in the game, as well as unlock music from throughout the series' history. It's more comprehensive than it was in Three Houses. You can even set the player and enemy phase music separately from one another. I appreciate that. The rewards in these games are more for the bigger fans of Fire Emblem who could get excited about music and costumes. That's me, I'm one of those fans. Going back to some ports, Bayonetta 2 does not use amiibo on Wii U, but it does on Switch. You can instantly unlock features that were released for the Wii U version of Bayonetta 1 if you have the corresponding amiibo. You know, the Peach and Daisy skirts and the Link costume, to name some. You can unlock these with enough halos in both versions of the game. If you have the Player 2 version of Bayonetta, you can unlock everything under the Super Mirror and Super Mirror 64 sets all at once. With the Bayonetta 2 amiibo, not Player 2, the outfit from 2, you'll unlock everything from the Super Mirror 2 sets. Funny enough, Bayonetta 3 did not feature or use any amiibo. It would have been nice to complete the trio of Bayos from each game. Oh boy, Super Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2 are pretty underwhelming, even if you got the huge Mario and Rosalina amiibo to go with it. Scanning any Mario gives you double health, and any Rosalina gives you an extra life. Any other Mario characters will give you 1 coin. I mean, I guess it counts as 1 health, but wow, we're really aiming low here. 1-ups and life mushrooms are not that hard to come by in these games. Also, if you scan an amiibo in the hub world, you can get either 5 or 15 whole star bits. It's the same functionality between both games. Mario games in general became a lot less creative with these. You can unlock costumes early in Super Mario Odyssey, but I'm pretty sure every costume can be unlocked in-game. It's nice to get it instantly, but that's really the only convenience. It did give us a chance to make Mario big. Actually, he's kind of a short king now. And oh yeah, this game reminds me how amiibo cereal was a thing. Move over, box tops, it's all about the NFC reader now. It didn't really catch on. And honestly, a little too sugary. In Super Mario 3D World and Mario Bros. Wonder, you get power-ups depending on which one that you use. These games have specific amiibo for them, like Cat Peach and Elephant Mario, but there's not much unique to them when scanning them into their own games. I will give credit to Super Mario 3D World though, specifically Bowser's Fury. There, you can either use an amiibo to give yourself a power-up, or use a Bowser amiibo to summon the apocalypse. There are specific blocks that can only break during this occurrence, so this is a way to skip waiting for him to appear on his own. Last menacing on this list here is Captain Toad. I guess you can play hide and seek with Pixel Toad on the Wii U, that's cute. On Switch, you get an invincibility mushroom instead, which is definitely less charming. What happened to Pixel Toad? If you scan any of the Wedding Mario Odyssey amiibo, you get the Odyssey themed levels early. These are some examples of them becoming like early access devices rather than a brand new way to interact with the game. Unsurprisingly, Donkey Kong Bonanza did the same thing. They have a really fun amiibo in his new design in Small Pauline, but it's not exactly substantial. This is also the only Pauline amiibo, come on Nintendo. You can scan in the Bonanza amiibo when you find this vaguely familiar pair of Tectones, and earn the Diva dress. This is something you normally wouldn't get until very late game, so there's that. You can also use other DK amiibo to spawn in huge Kong tiles that explode, or a giant ball of a random element. Nice? I was a bit shocked that amiibo would still have functionality going into the Switch 2 era. It felt like they were slowly going to start being phased out, but nope. Amiibo over the years have gotten higher in production quality, they've gotten more expensive, and more boring in application. And if they're not boring, the baseline is that they usually do the exact same thing that we've seen in another game. Fairy Air Riders is a perfect example of this. You can scan in a rider and train them up to be super strong and competitive, pretty much exactly like how Sakurai did it in Super Smash Bros. Prior to this. You race them, you likely beat them, and they level up and also learn from your style if you choose to let them to do so. You can also change the home menu figure. My Kirby is feeling just a little extra fabulous today. But these amiibo are very elaborate. If you have others, you can mix and match the machine with the rider, opening the door to many combinations. Only problem is, man, these are expensive. This Kirby on the Warp Star was like $50. I want more of them, but I cannot justify getting Kirby, Bandana D, and Meta Knight for a total of $150 minimum. King DDD on the Tank Star, one of the biggest amiibo we're ever going to see probably, that's $55. You know what that means? It costs a few dollars more than what I paid for this golden Mario wristband I got from Super Nintendo World, which, in case you weren't aware, it does in fact count as an amiibo, making that DDD probably the most expensive amiibo in the market now. And we're still expecting more, like Sword Kirby on Dragoon, and you know that's going to be a higher price too. I think that's when it really started to hit me. These amiibo are huge in size, they have wonderful quality, and they look great on your shelf. But lately, for the games that they're attached to, they don't really do anything special. The Mario Galaxy amiibo, these are $35 to give you a mushroom. You can, of course, use these across multiple games, but the creativity behind their functionality is a long gone age since the Wii U era. The original price of the Smash Bros. Amiibo were around a third of this, about $13. It feels like, with the added production quality, Nintendo is fully aware now more than ever that people are buying these as fun little figures to display first and utility in games after, having people pay more for a premium quality. It's partly because of how successful the Switch is now and how poorly Nintendo was doing when they launched. Amiibo were meant to alleviate poor sales by having a new avenue of profits. And it definitely found the right markets because people are still buying them, a product that was partially meant to be their band-aid at the time. So it's not a huge surprise that they have shifted their perspective today, from delivering unique experiences separate from DLC to the novelty of figurines of your favorite characters, doubling down on the quality of the product themselves. That premium continued with the release of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Here, scanning Silex will unlock the 100% ending cutscene without needing to collect everything, and say a quote to you?
You will pay.
Yeah, I sure will, like $100 if I want all these amiibo, don't remind me. I only got the Viola amiibo because it has Samus in her new outfit and she's on a freaking bike. But it's just so stupidly big. Like, I used to put all of my favorite amiibo in this one protective casing, so it would cycle out quite often. But these days, with the expectation of how big amiibo are, if I try to put it in, it's just too big. It's too wide. I can't close it anymore. There's just no way. Even the Kirby Air Riders amiibo, like if I try to put him down in here, he looks like he fits really closely, but he's also like he's not steep enough, so I can't put him all the way in. But also, like the very tip of the Warp Star is just big enough that I can't fully close it either. So I don't know. That's a me problem. Amiibo problem, if you will. But anyways, a Samus on the bike will give you bike skins that you unlock as your ride gets more miles in. There's some nice ones. And Samus herself unlocks a radio in the desert. You cannot unlock this radio any other way, no matter how much % you complete. Music is tied behind an amiibo, which I can understand if that's annoying for you, but it's also not quality of life like the Skyward Sword Instant Warp. It's just funny to see amiibo continue to be a pillar for Nintendo. Not as big as it used to be, but some people still really believe in it. Capcom, for whatever reason, cannot stop making amiibo for Nintendo releases. Street Fighter 6 went crazy with 3 figures and an entire line of cards. They're just to save and load outfits, color, and button settings, but you gotta respect the commitments. You could even use the Smash Bros. Line of amiibo for Ryu, Ken, and Terry. That's really cool. But even aside Street Fighter, they did Mega Man 11, there's an absurd amount of Monster Hunter amiibo, many of which didn't even release overseas. I'm not the Monster Hunter lore man, but I do know that they unlock specific layered armor sets depending on what you scanned in, as well as bonus items. These worked across Monster Hunter Rise and the Stories trilogy. Capcom continues to support amiibo today through its Diana amiibo for Pragmata and the much anticipated Resident Evil set with Leon and Grace. There's definitely some games in your library that don't use amiibo, but easily could have. Most of it is probably third party though. Like Sonic, weirdly enough, never used amiibo in any of his own games except for like Mario and Sonic at the 2016 Rio Olympics. And even then, you only unlock like a Super Sonic outfit for your Mii. We mentioned Bayonetta 3 neglected amiibo. Joker, there have been multiple Persona 5 games and none of them use amiibo. It's still Smash exclusive. I am shocked that after they were literally the ones to use the NFC thingy on the Wii U gamepad first, Pokemon never makes any use of amiibo in their games. Unless you're Detective Pikachu, one single game that isn't Smash Bros. And it used a massive figure for some reason, all it does is unlock cutscenes up to your progress point in the game. Well, technically Pokken Tournament counts too. You can scan in 5 amiibo a day for bonus titles, gold, customization options, things like that. Buying the game at retail does give you this fancy Shadow Mewtwo card though. With it, you can unlock the character early, but you do need to scan the card every time you want to do this. Mewtwo doesn't stay unlocked until you meet the requirements in-game. Maybe they fear that if some Pokemon amiibo release, like starters for Winds and Waves for example, then there's this expectation to release a whole line and overtake Nintendo's piece of the pie. I think even just the trainers would be cool, but that's just me. If the mainline games haven't used amiibo yet, I feel like they never will. Despite having Cloud and Sephiroth, Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth don't use their amiibo. I feel like they could easily make something unique for that. Make your Buster Sword look like how it did in the original PS1 polygons. That'd be funny. Dragon Quest XI-S doesn't use Hero. The amiibo released only a year later. They could have done at least a little something. Simon and Richter amiibo don't interact with any of the collections, for example. I could go on with a lot of little omissions like this. The bottom line is, we don't see usage with amiibo the same way we used to. Partially because Nintendo doesn't need to rely on them the same way that they used to. And I think that's fine. They have become so expensive and sometimes just doing the bare minimum. Like, we've really passed the golden era of amiibo. And I say golden era, but this was also the time when figures were released and some were exclusive to GameStop, Best Buy, Toys R Us, and Target all on the same day. It was madness trying to collect your favorite characters in a single day. I eased up a lot on buying these. It was, and still is, more about getting figures for something that you never would have expected to see. The Smash line will always be legendary for this. Who would have expected a Ness and Lucas official figure in like 2017 or whenever those released? A Fire Emblem line? Like, we got Final Fantasy? In what world would this have happened otherwise? Like Sora and Banjo-Kazooie? This still boggles my mind. But I think I've covered a pretty broad range of amiibo by now. Do you have any favorite amiibo? Either their usage or just the figure themselves? Do you still buy them? Or are they just too expensive now? I'd love to know down below. Thank you so much for watching. Now, if you'll excuse me, there are so many amiibo I dug up here just for this video. My desk is a disaster. They are everywhere. So I'm gonna go clean this up, lie down, and cry about how we never got a Dragon Quest VIII Hero amiibo. Take care, everyone, till we meet again.